Mission X is accomplished. Nigeria defeats Morocco 3-2 in the 2024 Wafcon final in dramatic fashion. We're going to recap the final and much more coming up next on the African Five-A-Side podcast. Welcome to the African Football Report on the African Five-A-Side podcast. I'm your host, Maher Mezahi, and as always, this is brought to you by africasacountry.com. I'm going to jump right into the match today because Nigeria have won their 10th Wafcon. Special accomplishment for quite clearly the team that's been the best women's national team on the continent since the inception of women's football competitions in Africa. But I still had questions. Beginning of this tournament, they weren't exactly putting the ball into the net. I know that had a lot to do with teams playing negatively against them. And they were coming up against a very good Morocco side with the home crowd behind them. So this was one that I thought, you know, could they get got here? Always thought Nigeria were favorites. I always thought they would win, but I wasn't 100% sure. And it was a great atmosphere in Rabat. At least that's how it came across on television. From what I know, the people that were there were telling me that because they were playing in the Olympic stadium, people were looking for tickets because it doesn't hold as many as obviously some of the bigger stadiums in Morocco do. I think just 20 or 30,000 capacity. And so tickets were really very rare and people were, normal fans were really struggling to get tickets. So limited seating, but still, even though there was a huge demand for seats, I didn't get the impression that the atmosphere was very raucous. Like when you watch Moroccan fans in other settings, whether it's the Moroccan national team or especially Wydad Casablanca, Raja Casablanca matches, those matches, there's not 1 or 2 minutes of silence throughout the 90. Whereas throughout the WAFCON, I've noticed that the crowds are not as fanatic, which is maybe a good thing, in the end, in African football. But still, obviously, there were a packed out crowd. Now, the last thing I want to talk about when it comes to support is the lasers. Because I noticed in almost all the comments in the videos that we've done for WAFCON, people have brought up the issue of lasers. Why I don't understand why CAF doesn't, crack down on lasers. Why do people in North Africa keep using lasers? No. So first and foremost, I'm just going to take like a three-pronged approach to this and then we'll talk about the match. First of all, in North Africa, for us, it's like really striking that this is such a big deal for Nigerians or for not just Nigerians, but other people around the continent when they come to North Africa. It's like they think this is like the worst thing in the world, like lasers, they're cheating. I saw the coach Justin Madugu. I think he was asked after the match by another big brother, Osasu Bayuana, about the lasers, and just the coach Justin Madugu was saying they were flashing in my eyes as well, and they really felt like this is like cheating. Whereas in North Africa, maybe because we're so used to it, it's like very second nature. We don't even think about it. Just don't even let it get to you. Um, it's almost like hearing a vuvuzela if you're watching a South African national team match or something like that. Like it's just maybe if you're not from South Africa, post 2010, I guess, um, it's something that it's gonna bother you and you hear it. Obviously, it's not the same thing. There's no cheating to the vuvuzela sound, but it really bothers people that aren't used to it. But if you're a South African, you're just so used to it. It's second nature, right? So that's the first thing is it's striking for a North African sometimes to see how much it bothers people around the continent. Uh, Second of all, people were saying CAF should crack down on it. I don't understand why you can't search people. You know how like people conceal, not just like lasers are tiny. They're this big and they're cylindrical like this. It's impossible to, people will put stuff anywhere, man. Like I remember I had a cousin that went to the quarterfinal of the AFCON in 2004, Algeria versus Tunisia in Sfax. Oh, sorry, Algeria versus Morocco in Sfax. And he was putting the flare, like the seat of his car, the back of the seat, there's upholstery, right? He cut the back of the seat of his car. He put the flares inside of there and stitched it back up. I've seen people like take drums. They open the drum, they cut the drum, they put flares inside of the drum, and then they stitch it back up again. Like it's so difficult to catch people, and especially for a tiny little laser like this, it's impossible to search. But the only thing I think they can do, that CAF can do, and I think they do anyways, is to monetarily fine the home federation for repeat offenses in that sense. So anyways, that was just something that I wanted to talk about because it's been amusing a little bit to see how much it bothers uh, non-North Africans, the lasers. And it's not just North Africans, by the way. We remember when Senegal played against Egypt. The first match in Egypt, they were using lasers. And then they went back to Senegal, and it felt like the Senegalese were like saying, "Oh, you guys want to use lasers? Watch this." And I've never seen probably so many lasers in my life being pointed, at Mohamed Salah when he was running up to take that penalty to try and qualify for the 2022 FIFA World Cup. Anyways, the lineups were, I think, Morocco's at least was fairly expected. It's the same lineup they use for every single match, really. The only real debate is, do you want to use Nakash or Bedri in midfield? In some matches they use Bedri, in other matches they use Nakash. Nakash was subbed out, I think, in the 35th minute or the 30th minute of the last match. So obviously the coach didn't like what he saw there. So I didn't make. I mean, it wasn't a huge surprise that Bedri started instead of Nakash for Morocco. For Nigeria, there was again one main change, but this one I think was one that had an impact on the match. At least that's what a lot of Nigerian analysts are saying. It was Abiodun came in for Echegini. And this was one that people felt was too conservative. It brings if you look at the Moroccan formation, it brings the center of gravity lower a little bit. It doesn't help them propel an attack or really, it sort of forces them to sit back and be conservative and passive. And it was one that you could see, I'm going to foreshadow a little bit, but when they made a double change, and they brought her on, Echegini, in the 70th minute or 60th minute, 60th minute, 57th minute, we saw a big change in terms of the match. Now, in terms of gameplay, I thought Morocco, they kicked off the match just in the first few minutes on the front foot. Nigeria, I noticed immediately, were not really pressing. They were sitting in a sort of mid-block. But in the first 10 minutes, then slowly but surely, Nigeria grew in influence, winning a lot of early corners that weren't necessarily taken very well. I thought the Moroccan goalkeeper, Admishi, did a good job of punching away a few of those corner kicks and set pieces. And then in the 13th minute, just in the 13th minute, a goal for Morocco. Now, they were kind of rewarded just for getting deep into Nigerian territory, and this was a problem. It was Halimatu Ayinde, who I guess has been pretty good throughout the Wafcon. She was just careless with possession of the ball. She had time. She could have done something else. She just loses it, and the ball, of course, pops out to who else? Rizlan Shedback. I think probably the one person you don't want you don't want in that position in the entire tournament. And it was a beautiful strike because she didn't really have to run up. She didn't have to take an extra touch. She was almost at a standstill, and she managed to get enough power and curve on the ball to beat Nadozi. Nadozi, I thought, did a great job of trying to reach it. It was just a fingertip away, outstretched arms. It was really good goalkeeping, but it was just a better strike. Um, and I can tell you, when she scored that goal, in my mind, I was like, just immediately after, the next minute, I said, that's the kind of goal that they show on replays. That's the kind of show that they show in documentaries, the slow motion, that's the kind of goal that makes a player, a legend. She's already a legend, of course, in Moroccan football, Rizan Shebak, but this is the kind of thing that takes it to another level, another echelon. And so it kind of felt like, wow, if they win with this goal, this is going to be really special. And then right after the goal, Morocco looked more and more comfortable. And I thought initially in the first 30 to 35 minutes, the Nigerian fullbacks in particular, Ashley Plumter, who, thanks to Biola Salas Chukwu, who finally got the pronunciation correct, because I was saying Plumtree and stuff. Ashley Plumter is the correct way of pronouncing the name. Her and Michelle Alozi, I thought they were early on a little bit disappointing. Plumter in particular, like she had one nice dribble or two nice dribbles, but I thought she really struggled with Sakina Uzraoui and Msudi on the other hand. Sana Msudi, who scores the second goal, she would, I thought, be a little bit of a hand for Michelle Alozi as well. Alozi, I thought, grew into the match much better, particularly in the second half. She ended up having a very good game, but early on, I thought it was a little bit tricky for the Nigerian fullbacks to deal with the Moroccan wingers. In the 24th minute, Morocco score, and there's a touch of fortune for Morocco or misfortune for Nigeria about this goal, because a cross comes in and Ibtisam Jaredi she's in a tussle with, I forget which, I don't know if it was Ohale or Debehin. She falls and the ball like hits her, I think, in the back or something, and just deflects straight out to Sanam Sudi, who really great instincts, fast feet, immediately dribbles past Michelle Alozi, and scores a second goal. Um, So yeah, Msoudi, by the way, I mean, they started the tournament, Morocco, starting Tegnout on the left wing instead of Msoudi. And I understood it because Tegnout is a hell of a player as well. But I think it was a good decision to move to the Msoudi to the left wing and start matches with Msoudi because she really came on as the tournament progressed, particularly in the knockout stages. And by the 37th minute, I wrote down that Morocco were unbothered by Nigeria. Um, and I wanted Nigeria to be more direct, whether that was passing the ball, matriculating up the pitch, defense, midfield, forward lines, 3 or 4 lines, or long balls. Like I was disappointed with the quality of the long aerial diagonals, crosses. I remember like one free kick towards the end of the first half, Michelle Alozi, which is, by the way, I thought she was right-footed. She plays right back, but she takes some of her free kicks and some of the long balls she hits with her left foot, which is a little bit weird, I thought. But she hit one, I think, right into the player that there was a single player on the wall. This was like not even a wall. It's just she's just like there. And in the 45th minute, I put Morocco a defending set piece as well. If they're not winning the first ball in the air, they were winning the second ball. In the 45th minute, I remember, I think it was Esther Okoronkwo took the set piece this time. Um, Nobody got a clear header on the first ball. And the second ball, Sakina Uzari picked it up and she dribbled 70 meters down the pitch and eventually shot it wide. And Nadozi, I think, had it covered anyways, but shot it wide. And it was one of those where Nigeria, by the way, did a hell of a job tracking back. And I think she just ran out of gas, and that was that. But I thought overall in the first half, Morocco looked sharp. What I mean by sharp is that if teams are put in the same position, Morocco, with their position, will get much more out of that opportunity than Nigeria, who, in the exact same position, I thought were very, very disappointing, very wasteful. It looked like they hadn't started the match yet. It looked like they were like groggy, like they hadn't realized that the Wafcon final had begun. The first half, I thought they were very, very disappointing. Immediately after halftime, there was an attitude shift. So props to Justin Madugu. I don't know what he told the team at half, but obviously they understood the urgency of the situation. Um, but the real thing that changed the match, in my opinion, was in the 57th minute when he had the double sub. He brings on Babajide and Echegini for Ezo and Ayinde. And it's one of those where I think a lot of Nigerian fans and journalists and analysts were saying, took you long enough. And why didn't we start the match this way? That's what I think most people were saying. And we saw the effects right away. Just 5 minutes later, there's a penalty that Nigeria wins. And this was one that was unfortunate for Morocco because the ball gets down to the byline. There's a cross, and it doesn't feel like Nuhela Benzina is really trying to handle the ball. She's like turning like this, and her hand is out like this, and the ball hits the hand. I don't know where the ball was going. I don't know if there was a clear goal scoring opportunity. I don't know if there was a possibility of a Nigerian player getting out on the end of it. It felt like one of those shaky ones, but I think the hand was out far enough from the body for it to signal that it could have been a penalty. So I understand the decision, but it was, yeah, high velocity, involuntary. Just the hand positioning was a little bit away from the body, but I even think that was involuntary. So it was unfortunate for Morocco. And Esther Okoronkwo sends the goalkeeper the wrong way. Game on, 2-1 now. And now I could start feeling like an avalanche, the snowball becoming bigger and bigger and bigger and rolling downhill. And Nigeria, you could tell, we're now really starting to pedal. And in the 72nd minute, so just 5 to 6 minutes after they score the penalty, Esther Okoronkwo goes on this crazy run where everybody's like trying to tackle her, and she's dribbling past some using skill and by others using strength, and the ball sometimes just luckily finds itself at her feet, and she gets through maybe 4 or 5 Moroccan defenders. And I'm thinking, shoot, 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 shoot. But it's on her right foot, to be fair. And I'm thinking, shoot, shoot, shoot. And she does unselfishly, gets her head up and plays the ball across to Ijemi Lucy, um, who I thought almost missed, actually. She should have went to the other side of the goal. But still, she plays the ball square, and it's 2-2 to Nigeria. And by that point, you're thinking, oh man, like Nigeria's done enough. The momentum has completely shifted. It's only a matter of time before they get that third goal. But as the game was so dramatic, of course, Morocco, they win a penalty. And against the run of play, and it's one of those where I think the referee, I think, made the right call here. The ball's in the air, a Moroccan defender hits it, but again, the proximity of the players is so close, and the hand position I think is natural. It's beside the person's body, and so there's really nothing she could have done about it. It was involuntary, like Benzina, but it's just the difference. I think the main difference between the two calls is the Nigerian player, her hand was closer to her body than Benzina, whose arm, according to at least some of the camera angles I saw, was a little bit further away from the body. So I think it was the right decision, a brave decision, but the right decision by the referee to use VAR and to overturn the call in the 82nd minute. And then in the 88th minute, Nigeria score, and it's Esther Okoronkwo again. In the first goal, by the way, she wins the header that wins the penalty, and then she scores the penalty. The second one, brilliant run, assist, and then the third one, as she's done all tournament really through set pieces, it's one of those where it's almost like when Harry Kane took set pieces for England initially, everybody was thinking, you're a striker, get in the box. Why are you taking corners and set pieces and stuff? But she's so good at it that, because she's great in the air too, but she's so good at taking the set piece as well that you almost want her to take those set pieces every single time. She plays a beautiful ball in to Echegini. The super sub comes on, not super sub, but we say like, uh, in French, they say like that's winning coaching when you make a sub and the sub scores the goal. 3-2. And by then, Morocco were completely deflated. You could tell they knew the game. Everybody knew the game was over. But it was Nigeria in the air again. Throughout the tournament, they've been absolutely dominant in the air. Some people in the comments last time were saying like, they almost felt like I was discrediting Nigeria's skill or the way Nigeria play football. No, not at all. Like if you have an advantage in football, you should use it, you know? And so fitting for me for Esther Okoronkwo to be voted, woman of the match, player of the match. She was, again, involved in all three goals. And since she became, even when she was coming on as a sub, when Oshuala was starting early on in the tournament, she was good. But since she's been starting matches, she's been incredible. And it really felt like she's been the main revelation of this tournament. I think people knew who she was, but they didn't know she could step up this well. And even though she's 28 years old, it feels like a new page is turning, and Nigeria have won a new superstar. So that's been really great to see. I think alongside some Ghanaian players I tweeted, maybe like Asanteoa, maybe um, Nyamache, I think Esther Okoronkwo has been one of the revelations of this tournament for sure. But it really was a game of two halves. Morocco in the first half were clearly the better side, and they scored 2 goals. Nigeria in the second half were clearly the better side, and they scored 3 goals. Overall, I think the better team won. I think the best team in the tournament won. So congrats to the Nigerian Super Falcons. And the crazy thing is, we're going to do all of this again in less than a year in Morocco again. So this next coming up AFCON, it's not like, it feels weird to say this because it almost feels like, all right, Nigeria won. Now we're going to focus on the next one, but it's coming up in less than a year. And this next one is going to be even more important because all semifinalists will be qualified to the World Cup in Brazil. So yeah, it was really great following this Wafcon. I enjoyed it. I hope you all enjoyed it as well. And like I said, we're going to be seeing you all very, very soon anyways, for the next WAFCON, which is in less than a year's time. So we have a crazy calendar this year. This is what I'm realizing. We have FIFA World Cup qualifiers to see who's going to qualify for the World Cup in America. Then we have CAF Champions League. Then we have AFCON. Then we have more CAF Champions League. Then we have WAFCON. Not to mention like the under 17s and the under 20s. I don't know like what the youth tournaments are. I've not been following them too much, but there's going to be some youth tournaments as well. So it's going to be a year that's jam-packed full of African football, and I can't wait to break it all down and speak to it all with you. I hope you've enjoyed. I've really enjoyed speaking to a lot of guests during the WAFCON because I understand this is not my forte. This is not my strength. I don't think I'm an expert on women's football, even in Africa. So I've really enjoyed speaking to people like Colin Udo, Busisiwe Mokoena, Buster Kirchner, Alistair Haworth. That's been like really the joy of my tournament, and I hope you guys enjoyed it too. And yeah, I'll speak to you all very soon. Peace.